We, as Americans, have a responsibility to make sure our government properly reflects our will and preferences. How is this done? This is done through voting, which tells government our preferences. Our country was founded on the idea of liberalism. To sum up Professor Monroe Eagles, John Locke, who is considered the founder of liberalism, that every state who advocates liberalism must be a reflective government. So if one does not vote, they cannot expect a government to reflect their preference. I've studied politics for 4 years here at MSUM. Now, I may not be an expert, but I do have a general understanding of how our system works. I hope to persuade you in why your vote matters. Now, what is the problem? Nobody seems to vote. According to the Census Bureau in 2016, only 58% of eligible voters voted in last year's election. This means 42% of the country is not being properly represented. This is a major problem because only a certain amount of people are actively participating in our democracy, which in return gives us a non-reflective government. Now, let's take a look at who is being represented by our government. According to McClue of Demos, in his analysis in 2012, he found that affluent white people with college degrees were more likely to vote than anyone else. He later concluded that public policy is more partial to them. But why is this? That is because they vote, so government responds to them more. Well, how do we look at that? It's through the difference now between non-voter ideology and voter ideology. According to the American National Election Study in 2012, McClue found that non-voters are more likely to support government aid, government services, along with an increase in minimum wage. Now imagine if these non-voters would have voted. Now, we'd probably see a difference in policies being implemented in our country. But for the fact is, they don't vote, so these policies cannot be implemented. So why is voter turnout so low? Well, according to the Washington Post and the Census Bureau in 2015, the number one reason why is Americans say they are too busy. And you can tie that in with registration. We all live busy lives, and it's always a hassle to go stand in line and vote and fill out registration forms. Another is education. According to Barry Burton of the University of Wisconsin, that education is the biggest predictor in if someone will vote. People with college degrees tend to make more money, and they tend to seek out political information compared to people who are not educated or have a college degree. The other problem is parties. It's always the major two, Democrat versus Republican. Now, while there are other parties, people tend not to vote for these smaller parties because they feel as if their vote is a waste. And some people don't identify with just Democrat or Republican. I mean, if we look at the last election, people struggled the most probably there. The other problem is simply don't care. People feel as if their government doesn't affect their lives in any way. Their vote won't make a difference in a way, or it has nothing to do with government. Well, how do we solve these solutions? Some you could solve just by voting. But for too busy in registration, according to Vernon, who I cited earlier, he found that in 2004 and 2008, that a one-stop shop where people can register and vote on the same day actually increased voter turnout. Education. If people vote in policymakers who are in favor of funding education, this will help give a better chance of getting college education for people, give more opportunity. And also, if we put in policymakers who are willing to, increase curriculum in the high school level, making it more hard or focus on our government, people have a better understanding. Because you don't need a college degree necessarily just to understand the basics of government and how your vote counts. And for simply don't care, that I think can be tied into education. People think that it doesn't affect their life. While voting does impact though, taxes, policy, national debt, education, all these are tied in with voting. For instance, representatives, and when we vote, some are in favor of taxes, some look to decrease taxes, or foreign policy, national debt, education, all these matters affect your life. Some people like to object and say that my single vote actually doesn't make a difference. However, but if we take a look at last year's elections here in Minnesota, in District 32B, the winning representative only won by 462 votes. Now, and if you look across the country, such as Wyoming, the deciding factor number of votes was under 20. So your vote does make a difference, especially in local elections, because they are so tight. We as individuals owe it to each other to go out and to participate in our elections. A republic is built on the power of the people, and when we fail to execute this power, government can respond effectively. I hope that I have persuaded you and your vote, and I hope that you participate in the upcoming elections. I have showed you that the simple causes of why this is a problem, and they can simply be solved by just going out and voting. Anyways, I thank you. I hope I have persuaded you.